it was the biggest sporting event of its time. A 1928 cross-country race with its halfway point in Claremore, Oklahoma. Schools and businesses shut down, and Oklahomans came out in droves to watch the runners race down Route 66. In the lead was a 20-year-old Cherokee farm boy from Foyle, Oklahoma. He was an underdog, competing against marathoners, record holders, and professional runners from all over the world. Andy Payne, the foot racer, has just come home, and Claremore has given him a big welcome. I had to rush home to protect my own interest. I am about to lose my favorite son standing. This was Will Rogers joking on June 19, 1928, about Andy Payne. He had just won a cross-country race and a $25,000 prize that came with it. Andy, a Cherokee Nation citizen, had been in California looking for work when he saw a newspaper advertisement announcing C.C. Pyle's first annual Transcontinental Footrace. Growing up, running the back roads of northeastern Oklahoma, Andy was known to outrun horses and figured if anyone could run from coast to coast, he could. The race was meant to promote the newly established Route 66, which had been cobbled together out of dirt roads and paved highways. The Route 66 Association hoped to encourage Americans to take long-distance road trips on the new Main Street of America, and so enlisted C.C. Pyle to create a grand promotional event. The route of the Bunyan Derby, as the newspapers had dubbed it, stretched from Los Angeles Ascot Park to the windy city of Chicago. The runners would continue on to New York City via several different highways and end the race in New York City's Madison Square Garden. The 275 participants came from all over the world and were of many different races, breaking typical segregation laws of the time. Among the runners were record holders and famous marathoners. So little attention was paid to the Oklahoma farm boy, Eddie the chic gardener, the son of two former Alabama slaves, Johnny Salo, a shipbuilder from New Jersey, and an Englishman, Peter Gavuzzi. All had a good chance of winning. The Bunyan Derby began on March 4, 1928, to great fanfare. Each night, the runners would stop in a different town, and their times for the day were recorded. C.C. Pyle, the race's organizer, was a leading sports promoter and the first American sports agent, nicknamed Cash and Carry Pyle. Always an opportunist, Pyle attempted to get towns along the route to pay for the runners to stop there. Andy and the other runners slept in tents that were transported along the route. Also in the caravan were 40 newspaper reporters, Pyle's custom-made touring bus, and a carnival that Pyle set up nightly in each town, complete with freak show attractions, and the mummified body of Oklahoma outlaw Elmer McCurdy, who had been dead for 17 years. The runners encountered plenty of obstacles, including running on unpaved roads, accidental injuries by motorists, subpar meals and sleeping conditions, and changing weather. After a particularly grueling hot day of running, nearly 60 miles through the Mojave Desert on day 8, only 130 racers remained. The burning heat of California was soon followed by 7,000 feet of elevation at the highest point of Route 66 near Flagstaff, leaving only 100 runners. Andy Payne took second place in Arizona, and it was here that the newspapers began paying attention to this Cherokee kid. On the 12th day, Andy came in first to the checkpoint in Seligman, Arizona, but the lead didn't last long. A sore throat turned out to be tonsillitis, and Andy lagged behind over the next few days. He forced himself to continue running while he recovered with the help of his trainer, Tom Young. Andy had employed Young with a promise of payment of 10% of any of the prize money he should win. Frigid cold, snow, and ankle-deep mud met the runners in the Texas Panhandle. But on Easter Sunday, April 8th, Andy in front led the rest of the participants into his home state of Oklahoma. Some Oklahomans had banded together to offer a $1,000 reward to the first runner to enter the state, and Andy thrilled everyone when he crossed the state line in the lead. Because of Andy's popularity, Pyle had a special Andy Payne edition of the official race program published. Over the 12 days the race remained in the Sooner State, Oklahomans celebrated their newest favorite son. In Oklahoma City, a line of 1,000 cars followed Andy into the city. A massive crowd showed up for a parade in Andy's honor. In Tulsa, busloads of bands from all over the state greeted Andy and his fellow runners. He had been stopped and greeted so many times, he briefly lost his lead. and had to be escorted by a police motorcade through Tulsa. When Andy reached Claremore, the largest town near his hometown of Foyle, he received a 22-gun salute from the cadets of the Oklahoma Military Academy and was greeted by Will Rogers on the halfway mark of the race, 1,650 miles in. Andy had a chance to visit briefly with his family and his sweetheart, Vivian, at home in Foyle before leaving the state to continue the Derby. Andy maintained his lead on and off for the rest of the race, with Englishman Peter Gavuzzi and Johnny Salo from New Jersey his closest competition. Other runners dropped out due to injury, fatigue, or cheating. Andy again had to have a police escort when the route entered Salo's hometown of Passaic, New Jersey, as there was a rumor that Salo's friends were going to run Andy over. In reality, Johnny Salo and Andy Payne became friends. And after the race, Salo said of Andy, "I'm just proud to have been able to run with such a man." On May 26, 1928, after 3,422.3 miles, running 573 hours, 4 minutes, and 34 seconds, over 84 days, in which he averaged 40 miles per day, 10 minutes per mile, and wore out 5 pairs of shoes, Andy Payne came in first place in the Transcontinental Footrace, beating his nearest competitor by 15.5 hours. Only 55 of the original Bunyan Derby runners made it to the finish line in New York City's Madison Square Garden. Andy Payne used the $25,000 prize to return to Oklahoma, pay off the mortgage on his parents' farm, buy a car to travel to visit Vivian, and marry her the next year. After accomplishing such an extraordinary feat, Andy Payne retired from running. He went on to serve as the clerk to the Supreme Court of Oklahoma and died in 1977 at the age of 70.